Madam Speaker,
Yes. Yes.
I am extremely grateful
Yes.
to the large number of honourable members who have spoken on the debate relating to the 122nd Amendment to the Constitution to bring in the concept of the goods and services tax, a destination tax as far as the whole country is concerned. Madam, it is unquestionably a very important moment because the whole process of indirect taxation in India will change once the GST itself is implemented. And this entire debate has consumed more than 12 years. The Kelkar Committee was appointed by the first NDA government in the year 2003. Thereafter, the report of the Kelkar Committee came, which referred to a new system of indirect taxation in India, which causes the least amount of harassment, the least amount of evasion, and brings about a single taxation structure across the country. The advantage of such a structure would be that besides being a destination tax, it would involve several important features. There will be uniformity of taxation as far as the whole country is concerned. You will not come across a situation where trucks are either waiting outside a state or outside a city in order to enter. There will be a seamless transfer of goods and services. The whole country, which is 1/6 of the world's population, would become a single market. And therefore, it would give a necessary fillip as far as the trade is concerned. The other important feature of this taxation is that there would be no tax on tax. Today, if on raw material a tax is paid, thereafter excise duty is paid, thereafter when the goods enter a particular state, some entry taxes are paid, then VAT is paid, different layers of taxation are paid, and you don't get necessarily a set-off for the taxes already paid. And therefore, there is a regime of tax on tax which makes the goods per se costlier. And therefore, the effort has been of the consistent exercise which has gone on from 2003 onwards. How do we come to a system which will bring the prices down in the long run? It may bring inflation slightly down. And economists estimate that it has the potential to give a boost to India's GDP itself. It also helps in empowering the states because the kitty of the states itself would increase. The finance minister of the UPA, in his budget speech of 2006, first introduced the concept of the tax itself. Thereafter, in 2006, when the concept of the GST was introduced, an empowered committee of state finance ministers was formed, discussion papers were mooted, and an adequate amount of discussion went on in the whole system. In March 2011, again the UPA finance minister introduced the 115th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, after this, it went up for consultations, that amendment. It went to the empowered committee of the finance ministers. It also went to the standing committee. Now, I'm extremely grateful to Shri Veerappa Moily, who stood up and supported the bill. But from what I have read in the newspapers, this bill needs support not by words alone, because every member of the UPA who has spoken has, by and large, supported the bill. To pass a constitution amendment, you need positive votes. And the only reservation which I thought Mr. Moily had, he raised some issues with regard to the difference between the 2011 bill and the 2015 bill. And Mr. Moily's case was that since 2015 is different from 2011, therefore it needs to go back to the standing committee. That is the substance of his argument. And that is probably why the leadership of your party was accordingly also briefed to that effect that there are some important changes which have been made, and these changes require to be reflected again by a standing committee. If that alone was enough, probably you had a very reasonable point. But I think while taking such decisions, one needs to go into the fine print in detail. You introduced the 2011 bill. The 2011 bill, I don't want to call it a UPA or an NDA bill, because this has been a collective effort of government after government, went to the standing committee. The standing committee discussed it for 2.5 years. Now, most of the changes which you have mentioned by Mr. Moile were discussed by the standing committee. So whatever you are referring to as new proposals brought by me are those proposals which on the 2011 bill, it went to the standing committee. The standing committee itself made some recommendations. Mr. Mehtab, I think, was a member of that standing committee. Now, what did the standing committee say? The standing committee, you mentioned that you had a dispute settlement mechanism. Now, your dispute settlement mechanism was that there should be a committee headed by a Supreme Court judge. Now, legislations are to be decided by Parliament or state assemblies. Committee by a judge can't decide disputes between centre and state. So the whole idea was to have a GST council which would decide the dispute. Now, what did the committee say, the standing committee? The committee therefore desires that the proposed Article 279B of the GST Dispute Settlement Authority should be omitted, and the body would have the effect of overriding the supremacy of Parliament and state legislatures. However, since any dispensation involving entities in trust requires a mechanism to resolve disputes, it is expedient to make a provision in 279A empowering the GST Council to decide this. So you said a Supreme Court judge must decide, independent man must decide. The standing committee during your regime went into this question and made a recommendation, no, GST Council must decide. So I have brought an amendment to say GST Council must decide according to standing committee. Now your suggestion is send it back to the standing committee. A bill is not a dancing instrument that it will jump from standing committee to standing committee. Once I accept the recommendation of the standing committee, what is the rationale of sending it back to reconsider that recommendation again to a standing committee? Now you mentioned, with regard to the voting pattern, the 2011 bill said decision should be by consensus. How does the centre and 30-odd states decide a consensus? If 5 states say something and 25 says another, is there a consensus? Is there unanimity? Consensus per se is a vague phrase. How do you say you've achieved a consensus? Your bill mentioned consensus. The bill went to the standing committee. What did the standing committee say? It went to the empowered committee. And recommendations of empowered committee and standing committee are ad idem, they are unanimous. Accordingly, as agreed upon by the empowered committee, 1/3 weightage of central representatives, 2/3 weightage of state representatives may be provided, and the decision taken by the council should be passed with 3/4. Now, the word consensus is replaced by an arithmetical formula by the empowered committee and the standing committee. I accept that. Your suggestion is send it back to the standing committee. Now, these are recommendations of the standing committee. Before you took up the stand, send it back to the standing committee, at least you should have read the recommendations of the standing committee on your bill. The standing committee recommendations itself say, which I have accepted it. Now the third issue, what do we do about petroleum? States were insistent that petroleum and alcohol be kept out since it's a major source of state revenues. You kept alcohol out, I have also kept alcohol out, that's potable alcohol. Potable alcohol is a state subject, industrial alcohol is a central subject. That situation remains. Now, as far as petroleum is concerned, we came to an arrangement with the states. Petroleum will be part of the amendment, but no tax would be imposed unless the GST Council, where there is 2/3 majority of the states, agree to it. So as and they may agree after umpteen number of years or 10 years or not agree at all, that's for the states to decide. We'll keep that status quo. Now you are saying send it to the standing committee. But Mr. Moile's standing committee has already expressed a view on it. The empowered committee has already expressed a view on it. The standing committee says Article 366 of the Constitution is proposed to amend wide clause 14 in the bill, where taxes on supply of specified goods is proposed to be excluded from the purview of the GST. The committee believes that such specific exclusions need not be provided in the Constitution, as will endlessly make the GST regime very rigid. And which are the specified communities? Under clause 12A, it includes petroleum. So the standing committee has already said so. The empowered committee has already said so. So what is the rationale? You must take an honest position whether you want a GST or you don't want a GST. There is no point saying we want a GST, but send it to the standing committee. But the standing committee has already recommended these. Your members have all agreed. These are unanimous findings of the standing committee. The empowered committee has agreed of finance ministers. All your Congress chief ministers are a party to this. It's a unanimous recommendations. So if you are opposed to the concept of GST, you have changed your mind. Or in the words of Mr. Adip Ranjan Chaudhary, kabhi haan, kabhi na. I thought he made a very valid point. I'm glad Mrs. Gandhi was smiling. You were smiling yesterday when he said so. You were smiling yesterday when he said so. But madam, please remember, I'm glad you were smiling, at least as Mr. Ranjan's comment. But the last laugh is always the louder one. So all that I am saying is the standing committee has already gone into these issues. So when you take this position, send it to the standing committee, at least read the standing committee report itself, which is very clear on this issue. Madam, several honorable members have raised, Mr. Premchandran raised a very important point yesterday. I had answered it, the speaker had ruled on it, but just a point of an additional clarification. He said you are giving to the president the power to amend the constitution. I said, no, we are not giving to the president. It's only to remove difficulties, which is there in most amendments, and it is there in most legislations. And you mentioned that it was there in that ill-fated 42nd amendment of the emergency, and the 44th amendment deleted it. I gave a reply yesterday. I went back home and took out the 44th amendment. The 44th amendment deleted everything that the 42nd amendment of the emergency did. But the 44th amendment, and it was an inaccuracy, and I say this with a sense of compliment to Mr. Premchandran because he does his homework very well. 44th amendment also had clause 59. Please. I'll pass it on to you for your reading. 44th amendment also had clause 59, which said power of the president to remove difficulties. If any difficulty arises in giving effect to the provisions, etc., president may modify, clarify, etc. You can take a copy from me. Not only the 44th amendment added, the 45th amendment also had a similar clarification, a similar provision. So even in the constitution amendments, such like provisions are always there. So the 44th amendment, the 45th amendment all had this provision. There's nothing unusual about this provision. So the two principal objections gone, I take some of the important points which have been raised by several honorable members, because I must say that most members across parties who spoke raised several very important issues. They had examined this subject at length, and some of their concerns are real. The only question which we have really added to what the Standing Committee had said is this 1% on the IGST, the additional tax. Mr. Mehtab mentioned, Mr. Moily mentioned that this would have a cascading effect. It's a possible view. And this has been taken really with a sense of settling the dispute, otherwise the disputes would have continued indefinitely. Why they would have continued indefinitely is that the manufacturing states feel that what they manufacture, the taxation advantage in terms of CGST will go to the consuming state. And as the members from the AIDMK mentioned, and it was a very well prepared draft, I must compliment the honorable member, what he mentioned that we have spent on infrastructure, we have become a manufacturing state. For what I get as taxation as manufacturing state, in the GST regime may go to the consuming state. So somebody else will benefit. How do you therefore compensate me? This is not only a Tamil Nadu issue. Maharashtra had raised this issue. Gujarat had raised this issue. Now, in order to compensate the manufacturing state, once goods manufactured in their states go out, various protections have been granted to them. The first protection is that we have said for a period of 5 years, and that's a part of the Constitution amendment, any loss suffered will be borne by the center, and we will compensate the state. Secondly, as far as this 1% CGST is concerned, the manufacturing states, for 2 years by charging this, will set off any loss which is likely. This is in addition to the central guarantee in the Constitution that we will make good the loss. So this will help those states. So it has really been put for the benefit of those states. Now the GST Council also comprises of very responsible finance ministers of all states. It is seized of the matter. It itself has appointed a subgroup in order to see how there is no cascading effect. And this additional 1%, this is not on IG.
Honorable Finance Minister has mentioned about the Standing Committee recommendation. On this aspect, IGST, Standing Committee recommendation was very clear. The manner in which now it has been put forth in IGST, it will become cumbersome and it will be a burden on the executive. That's why the suggestion of the Standing Committee was to have a modified bank model. That was the suggestion. And that would have been much better, more clear, and the concern of Maharashtra, of Tamil Nadu would have been addressed to. And this was the suggestion of the task force recommendation.
Let me correct myself. This 1% additional tax, this should be called additional tax rather than linked to any IGST.
Honorable Finance Minister is addressing certain facts, concerns raised by Tamil Nadu government. For example, he says a uniform tax and you are telling destination tax, you want to not to tax by tax cannot be done. That is the concept of GST. But are you going to see that other taxes what you are imposing in the central ministry in due course of time You also said tax per example. So many chess are we are charging chesses for education purpose, roads and everything we are doing. The tax per tax we are doing for other purpose. Most of the state governments depending on this kind of taxes for the development. Therefore, whatever they want to tax, that can raise the revenue and do things. You are telling only 5 years only you are giving the guarantee and compensation. What about afterwards? Therefore, when the government, state governments are creating a lot of infrastructure facilities, I'm telling, these are the things we are concerned. Our honorable madam also has written so many letters, one former Prime Minister and also present Prime Minister, and also she raised in the various national forums about this issue. Therefore, we are more concerned. Therefore, somehow you see how to settle out this long run also our issues. That is what we are saying.
What Mr. Thambiduraiji has said, I can assure him and every member from Tamil Nadu that we are fully seized of the concern of the manufacturing states. Now, I'll just explain to you. We are also seized of the fact how this 1% additional tax itself should not have a cascading effect. The subgroup of the Empowered Committee of Finance Ministers is already going into this issue. Now, all these issues which have been gone into, and these issues are now being considered by that subgroup itself. Now, states which are manufacturing states, 5 years we have said we'll underwrite the loss. 1% you get this additional tax, which will be great advantage to the manufacturing states. The second advantage is that service tax, which is henceforth has been only a central legislation. Service tax only goes into the central kitty. Most of these states, which are developed states, rather than consumption states, have also a very high kitty of service tax. Once that component is shared with the states, for instance, my friends from Shiv Sena, and I'll address that concern a little later, are concerned about the octroi or the entry tax in the municipalities. Now, entry tax, there is one view, stops the smooth flow of goods and commodities. But the phenomenal amount of service tax which Mumbai itself gets, the phenomenal amount of service tax which Chennai gets, because these are very developed townships. Now, that is going to be so large that itself will be shared with the states for the first time. And in the first year, the history of VAT, which some of the honorable members reminded us of, is going to be repeated. That you probably may have no state, as in the case of VAT, there was a fear of unknown. The fear of unknown was, what if a new system of taxation comes, will my taxation go down? That was belied, and belied by the fact that the revenue of every state increased, and even when the states had to give, even when the states which thought that would go down, started gaining and the revenue of every state gives down. Mehtabji has said that what the standing committee of the modified bank model, Mehtabji, the modified model which you mentioned, that part, please remember, we are not only through this constitution amendment amending the central's power, we are also amending the state's powers. And therefore, this is cooperative federalism constitutionally in play. Parliament can decide one thing, the states will not agree. And I can assure you that in the standing committee, the states are not split on party lines. The states were all concerned about their interest. A West Bengal member would be concerned with the interest of a consuming state. Tamil Nadu or Gujarat will be concerned with the interest of a manufacturing state. Maharashtra was concerned with their octroys, and so on. Now, when these went to the finance ministers, that part of the modified model, the bank model, went to the empowered committee. The empowered committee unanimously disagreed. Now, if the states unanimously disagree with it, is it possible for Parliament or the centre to say that we must superimpose our will on the states? It is not possible. Then let me tell you, let me just finish this point, Premchandra, then I'll yield to you. Now, Service tax will go to the states. Petroleum and alcohol is already with the states. 1% additional tax will go to the states. And I don't foresee a possibility of any state being in a loss. And if any state is in a loss, the Constitution Amendment itself, it says in clause 19 that center for the 5 years will continue to underwrite that loss as far as the states are concerned.
Under the GST now.
No, sir. Let me just clarify. Let me just clarify. The Constitution Amendment is an enabling amendment. By an enabling provision, alcohol doesn't come in, but petroleum comes in. But the Constitution Amendment itself says the power to continue to tax petroleum and petroleum products will continue with the states. It will continue till such time that the GST Council agrees. And for GST Council to agree, you need a 3/4 mandate. So center itself will not be able to decide because I have only 1/3 vote. Now all these recommendations.
You are deciding factor. You are having veto power there.
No,
that is why you are objecting. Because 1/3 is already is more than.
I will answer this 1/3, 2/3. Bhartrihari Mehtab had raised this question. I'll raise this. Mehtab ji, since you have raised it, let me straight away meet it. Today, most of these taxations are decided alone by the center. Some of the taxes which states find are inadequate are decided by the states. By this model of cooperative federalism, and this is not my model. This was not born when NDA was there. When the earlier government was in power, this was brought in. No, I'll just tell you.
If you tax also with this GST, you are opposed.
I'll tell you, this 1/3, 2/3 model, along with all other standing committee recommendations which I have accepted, I have the original file. I would urge you, madam, to request one of your colleagues to share these papers with me. After this, because after all, you're a national party, your own finance minister okayed each one of these amendments when the standing committee recommended it. And now you can't tell me that send it back to the finance committee. Because in such a situation, the consistency would require that after all in states, your party is in power. Each one of your chief ministers, I have today recommendations, I have today speeches of the Honorable Shri Pranab Mukherjee, Shri Chidambaram, your chief ministers. Yes, we have, now since you have, I think at times, sir, my respectful submission, madam, is it's wholly erroneous to take GST as a UPA NDA issue. GST was a center-state issue. Between states, you had states of the same political party which were supporting GST and some were opposing GST. And the reason was because you've been raising this question without understanding the rationale why it was done. The Gujarat stand and the Tamil Nadu stand, being manufacturing states, was the same. They said manufacturing states are not compensated. And Gujarat yielded when we gave them a whole package, and the package involved for 5 years we will bear the loss. For 2 years we'll give you 1% additional tax. And then petroleum and alcohol is kept to the states. It's only when the manufacturing states were given this comfort level, and I can assure you, even during the present NDA government, you ask your own chief ministers, it is only after this package was given that some of the manufacturing states came on board, and Gujarat was amongst the last ones. Not because of UPA NDA issue, but because the real issue was between manufacturing states and consuming states. And if you realize that difference, I think the answer to the questions will be obvious. Now, Mehtab ji, you've been raising this issue, and Thambi Durai ji has said, this pattern of 2/3, 1/3. We are committed to cooperative federalism. But federalism means strong states. It doesn't mean a weak center. India, that is the union of states. And therefore, you want the union's identity to be so diluted, the effect of what you are saying will be, pardon me for using a word, the consequence would be so immense that if this model was not worked out, and I would compliment whoever in the standing committee or in the UPA government approving it, worked that model out. 1/3 power is with the center, 2/3 is with the states. So to compel them to work together, they said every decision will be by 3/4. So necessarily cooperative federalism would be at play, that states and center to reach 3/4 would have to work together. Otherwise the model you were suggesting, well, I know even the chairman of the standing committee, I'll certainly convey to him, and this model of 1/3, 2/3 has to integrate in order to reach 3/4. Otherwise, in the model you are suggesting, the states get together and say, henceforth center gets no tax, it goes only to the states. So what happens to India, that is the union of states? You have only the states with center having no revenue being voted out. So it's not a veto. No, nobody, sir, let me.
Please.
Sir, let me tell you, if there is one track record we are proud of, that's a track record of empowering the states. And we are committed to that. Not a single, I have said so in the context of 14th Finance Commission, and I say so in this context. Not a single state, as a result of 14th Finance Commission, which we have accepted, will lose revenue. It will gain over what it got under 13th. And secondly, even the package we have undertaken now will empower the states. Their revenues will be much higher, and consumption states need more revenue because they need more revenue for their own development. But the manufacturing states, we must ensure, don't lose any revenue. And that is the reason.
Sir, you are addressing the issues of manufacturing states. And the consumer states, consuming states are fully supporting this bill on the anticipation that they will be getting more revenue. But already a concern has already been expressed from most of the states. That is regarding 279A, Clause 1, Subclause C. That is a place of supply. I'm talking for and on behalf of all the consuming states, because only advantage as far as the consuming states are, they will be getting more revenue because of the interstate trade or commerce. But unfortunately, by virtue of the provision Clause C, the place of supply will be determined as per the advice of the GST Council, madam. If that be the case, the advantage which we are anticipating will also be lost. Suppose if the GST Council is taking a different view in respect of the place of supply when it comes in practice. That is the apprehension which was made by the consuming states. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam, the concern of both consuming states express again, but the concern of manufacturing states by this 1% additional tax and making sure that there is no cascading effect. And let us, Mr. Premchandran, leave some issues to the wisdom of the GST Council also. Now, all these legislations, 3 subordinate legislations will be framed, ordinary laws, which will have to be approved by those people. We can't implement it without their cooperation. And when they implement it, all these factors will have to be taken into consideration. The second very genuine concern that some of the members have raised is that a figure was being floated that will it be 27% and 27% RNR? The revenue neutral rate is going to be too high, and therefore the cost and the prices itself will go up. I straight away concede that 27% will be very high. The government or the GST Council has not given this figure. A particular organization in its own internal assessments did start regarding what is the revenue neutral rate. That will be one of the inputs. It got leaked out and somebody said it's 26.8. So that is how this figure of 27% was born. After this 27% was born, the states and the center have decided for the present to keep alcohol out. We have decided to keep petroleum out. And then every state chief finance minister is not interested in imposing higher taxes on his own people. Neither is the central government. And therefore, this figure is going to be much more diluted compared to the figure which has been mentioned. And these are rates which will be all decided by the GST Council itself. Once the...
Please.
The rate would be.
Please.
I can only tell you, I won't commit myself rather than lead to speculation. The 13th Finance Commission had suggested 18% as a possible figure. And therefore, people who suggest these large figures, and this will include the entire kitty of taxation. And that is something which goes to our natural advantage. This will have to be worked out. Now, a question was raised with regard to clause 19, that the central government will by legislation provide and it may pay compensation, etc. It should become shall. Now, in constitutional language, when may is coupled with a duty, when a discretion is coupled with a duty, may is always equal to shall. That is the language of legislative drafting. I can assure this House that our clear understanding with the states is, and we stand by this commitment, that for 5 years in the tapering manner in which they have decided, the loss suffered to any state will be compensated, and such a situation eventually may not have come. But there are hundreds and hundreds of laws, and it's a settled interpretation. If Kalyan Banerjee was here, he would have told you that in constitutional language, the difference between may and shall obliterates when may is coupled with a duty. They are synonymous. Sir, the next question which was raised was CST, compensation. Now, on CST compensation, it was a solemn commitment made in the year 2010 to the states that you reduce your taxation to 2%, and therefore your loss for 3 years will be compensated. That is the agreement. Now, till the year 2014-15, nothing was paid to the states. And one of the reasons that the states were not coming on board was the center made a 3-year compensation commitment to them. The center did not live it up. I had a meeting with the Empowered Committee and I said, even though it pertains to an earlier government, a government is a continuing identity. I undertake to make good that entire money. And therefore, since it could not be made good in 1 year because of budgetary constraints, we have come to an arrangement where one-third would be paid over 3 years to them. The first one-third has already been paid last year, in the last financial year. The next one-third will be paid by 2 installments in this year, one in the first part, one in the second part, I assured the states. And the third balance residuary money of CST compensation, which was not paid, will be paid in the year 2016-17. So the entire money of the states, in order to show the centre's gesture, itself is being made. An issue was raised by the honourable members from Tamil Nadu. Tobacco should be brought in. Now, tobacco for CST there are demerit goods. Alcohol and tobacco are both demerit goods. Now, alcohol, the states want the right to continue to charge them. Today, as far as the central GST is concerned, the center is charging on excise duty on tobacco. The center levies it because of health reasons, etc. It keeps the power to itself. Now, there is one demerit good where the power is exclusively with the states. There is another demerit good where the power is entirely with the center. That status quo remains. And the revenue compared to alcohol is a minuscule percentage as far as tobacco is concerned.
Is charged on tobacco. So that we have to give up unless you give the power.
For those like you who smoke excessively, Dada, don't indulge in this luxury. It is not beneficial for health. Because there is a smoker's room next to the center hall where Professor Saugat Roy is the most frequent visitor I see. So don't indulge in this luxury. And I think your government is doing well to charge you for indulging in that luxury. Sir, now this question has been raised by the honorable members from Maharashtra. Some of them met me also with regard to entry tax. Now, when all these taxes are subsumed in the GST, the effect of this is going to be, how will municipalities be funded? It's a legitimate question, and therefore the funding of municipalities, which the municipality taxes which the municipality charge under the Constitution, ordinary taxes, luxury tax, entertainment tax, will remain with the municipalities. Secondly, what is a barrier to free flow of goods and services has to end with GST, otherwise GST becomes meaningless. Now, Maharashtra as a state, I calculated the figures, loses around 14,000 crores for all municipalities on entry tax. It straightaway gains the largest amount in the country by service tax also going to Maharashtra. Then it gains a lot by this 1% additional tax. It is also entitled to levy an additional SGST within a band of 1%. Now, if you add these all together, the quantum of benefit to Maharashtra would be much more than the amount that you lose on the entry tax itself. And therefore, for each state, and we will advise the states accordingly, preferably by legislation, because there is a State Finance Commission also. The Central Finance Commission now is the 14th Finance Commission for municipalities and panchayats has sanctioned money separately. Now, from the total kitty of taxes of the state itself, plus what the states get from the divisible pool of the center, the State Finance Commission recommends a certain amount for municipalities. Now, if the state has to show its bona fides to the local bodies, keeping 73rd and 74th Amendment in mind, the state can legislatively provide this. It can by a contract or a public policy provide this. And we will advise states like Maharashtra to act accordingly so that the future of all municipalities is such that they are never starved of revenue on account of any such change which has taken place.
Madam Speaker. If I can intervene in this matter, particularly on this question which you have raised. Because in the earlier amendment, there was a provision that it allowed the states to tax entry of goods into a local area for use of sale only to the extent levied by a panchayat or municipality. This bill deletes that. Of course, you have mentioned that. But the question is that, yes, we'll advise. But that will take away the very spirit of 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Constitution. Where is the guarantee? That is why 73rd and 74th Amendment to the Constitution was introduced, just to take away these panchayats, municipalities and all these bodies from the mercy of the state government. And you are again putting them back to the mercy of the state government.
Sir, let us be very clear.
And which will definitely nullify very effect of the 73rd and 74th.
Moili Saab, again examine the question dispassionately. If goods by the object of uniformity in taxation is one structure, today predominantly there are only 2 states where entry tax remains. Please, most states have done away with entry tax. The two states where it predominantly remains is Maharashtra and Karnataka. Now, both states, octroi is mostly removed. Now, in most states, if you continue to have obstacles in the way of free flow of goods and tax and services, the whole purpose of a uniform tax itself would be defeated. And again, this is not my proposal. Please come and examine the file during your government. The standing committee recommended that this entry tax should be subsumed by the GST. Your finance minister said, yes, this has to be done. Otherwise, GST will become meaningless. And now when I raise it, you say you are defeating 73rd, 74th Amendment. Let us not raise this objection merely because there is a change of government. This was your proposal. At least be true to the proposal of the cabinet in which you were a member.
Yes. These entry tax and other things will
therefore the arrangement has to be the spirit of.
You will have to guarantee in the constitution that much of quantum which is meant for the local bodies is ensured. But
sir, municipalities and panchayats are run under the authority of the state governments. Their legislations are controlled by the state governments. So now don't take away the power of the states to say the center will legislate with regard to the funding of municipalities. Nowhere can that happen in the present constitutional order. And therefore, if both you and us are committed, let us be committed either by legislation or by a contractual policy that we tell the municipalities this is the level of their funding. All our states will do it. We are not interested in starving our municipalities as far as they are concerned.
Just now, Honorable Finance Minister told that regarding the entry tax, there will be legitimate arrangement in the GST. Accepted. But secondly, automatically there is a ban on illegal goods which are entered into the city. What arrangements should be there for that purpose? And secondly, if there is a GST, the being a local body, that is municipal corporation, it be Mumbai or other metropolitan municipal corporations, at least one member should be there in GST. He may be mayor or otherwise municipal commissioner.
Sir,
that is municipal commissioner.
We are in GST concerned.
Being an independent body. No?
It's a good point which Arsulji has raised. But in the GST, we are concerned with center and states. Within the states, just as, you see, the 13th Finance Commission recommended that states to have a sub-panel on the recommendation how to fund the municipalities. Now, within the states, when you do decentralization of this kind, it would be necessary, and I would certainly urge your state, because in your state the municipalities play a very important role, that even by legislation you can provide how the alternative form of funding to the municipalities has to take place, because we have to keep them alive now in those states. Therefore, madam, if we see the larger picture, as far as the GST is concerned, it's a 12-year exercise. Successive governments have atoned to it. Standing committee has made recommendations. Select committee has, the empowered committee has made its recommendations. Broad consensus has been reached. Even the honorable member from Tamil Nadu who spoke and the honorable minister who used to come, we have made sure that we give a comfort level to a manufacturing state like Tamil Nadu, that not for a single day will Tamil Nadu be kept in any form of loss or loss of revenue. If it's a performing state, it has to improve from good to the best itself. And we would certainly cooperate with them.
पंजाब फूड ग्रेन प्रोड्यूसर स्टेट है, वो एक ही स्टेट है शायद देश में जहां परचेज टैक्स लगता है। उसका क्या बनेगा जी, जो रॉ डीआई परचेज टैक्स हम लगाते हैं, और उसके लिए हम चाहते हैं कि कमिटमेंट हो जरूर।
पंजाब और हरियाणा जहां फूड ग्रेन की पैदावार ज्यादा होती है, वहां पर जो सेंटर प्रोक्योरमेंट करता है, स्टेट फूड ग्रेन के ऊपर प्रोक्योरमेंट के ऊपर परचेज टैक्स लगाती है। हमने उसके पूरे कैलकुलेशंस किए हैं, आपके जो दोनों वजीर हैं दोनों राज्यों के, उनके साथ बैठकर भी किए हैं। जो बाकी इस सारे कॉम्पनसेशन पैकेज में राज्य को मिलने वाला है, कई तरह के टैक्सेस की वॉल्यूम्स में इंक्रीज होना है, सर्विसेज टैक्स में इंक्रीज होना है, और उसके बावजूद भी अगर घाटा हुआ तो उसकी पूरी हम लोग करेंगे। ये भी बिल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन अमेंडमेंट में रख दिया है, उसको मद्देनजर रखा है। और बिल्कुल भी किसी का, और पंजाब को भी
प्लीज ये ऐसे क्वेश्चन
पंजाब
कैसे चले?
चंदू माजरा जी, पंजाब का ड्यूल कैरेक्टर है। पंजाब, जैसे आप पंजाब का उदाहरण लो, पंजाब एग्रीकल्चरल स्टेट है, पंजाब मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टेट्स भी है। अगर आप लुधियाना जालंधर के आसपास देख लो तो वहां मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टेट भी है। अगर आप हरियाणा देख लो तो हरियाणा में जो परचेज टैक्स का नुकसान होगा, जहां गुड़गांव जैसा शहर आ गया, वहां सर्विस टैक्स में इतना लाभ उनको होने वाला है कि उनको कोई इसका नुकसान नहीं होगा। और अगर दोनों राज्यों में से परचेज टैक्स की वजह से थोड़ा घाटा भी होता है तो उसकी पूर्ति केंद्र करने वाला है, ये एक्ट में लिखा है। 1% एडिशनल टैक्स जो हमने कहा है राज्यों को लगाने के लिए, जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टेट्स पर लागू होता है, वो दोनों परचेज टैक्स वाली स्टेट्स पंजाब और हरियाणा के ऊपर भी लागू होने वाला है। मैडम, दिस इज ऑल आई हैड टू से, एंड आई वुड सर्टेनली अर्ज I would certainly urge the members to approve this constitution amendment because it has been pending for a very long time.
Yes.